everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the iPhone 14 Plus and compare it against the iPhone XR and see which specific phone you should go and pick up. Now, links will be down in the description if you want to pick up either one of these devices. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely tell there are some pretty big differences. The iPhone XR came out back in 2018, and it was a $749 phone, I believe, at the time. So it definitely wasn't supposed to be like the flagship. You had a 6.1-inch Retina IPS panel on the front. You have a little bit of bezel around it compared to phones nowadays. You still have the notch just like on the iPhone 14 Plus. And overall, I mean, it's definitely not an OLED display. It doesn't look as good as the 14 Plus's display, but it's not like an ugly panel either. I think Apple did a pretty decent job at their IPS panels. It's not 120 Hz, it's 60 Hz, which is expected, but it is kind of the same thing as the 14 Plus in terms of kind of the feature set. With the 14 Plus, you're getting a much bigger 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel. So it's a much bigger screen, and it is definitely noticeably bigger in the hand for sure. Some big things to note: you are getting a little bit of less bezel around the 14 Plus compared to the iPhone XR. You're also getting a little bit of a smaller notch, but it is longer overall, so it's not even that big of a difference. But it's an OLED display, still at 60 Hz, and is definitely a bigger phone for sure than the iPhone XR. So in terms of the outside, that kind of covers it up on the front. In terms of thickness and thickness, not really that crazy big of a difference. I think they're both pretty thick phones. You can kind of see for yourself, you have a flat side on the 14 Plus versus the curved side on that XR. And definitely they both are thick phones. I don't really know if one is way thicker than the other one, but you guys can kind of tell which is kind of thicker there. Now, another thing, the XR does have a SIM card tray. The iPhone 14 Plus does not have a SIM card tray in it, which is kind of unfortunate, but you do have that type of capability on the iPhone XR. On the back, we have glass backs on both, which do look pretty good. You know, both phones look very, very good on the back. I will say the 14 Plus with that dual camera setup looks just amazing. I love having a dual camera setup on my phone, and I'm so glad this specific device has it. With the iPhone XR single camera setup, not that big of a deal. We have wireless charging on both. We do have MagSafe capability on the 14 Plus. You have emergency SOS satellite mode. You have crash detection on the 14 Plus as well. You have a lot of different stuff on the 14 Plus right there, including 5G. The XR doesn't really have. So those are probably some minor things to keep in mind. But in terms of that kind of covers it up on the outside. They both have lightning ports on the bottom. They both are not super the most expensive phones of their times, but they're supposed to be kind of, I guess, relatively around the same thing. So in terms of the outside, that kind of covers it up. Now, in terms of software and longevity, this is another somewhat kind of a different thing between both. The iPhone XR right now is one of the older phones supported on iOS. So the 2018 devices, for the most part, these are the second to last phones currently supported. So 2017 iPhones like the 10, the 8, and 8 Plus, those are the ones that are the lowest supported right now. The XR are second in line. So it's not a crazy big deal, but it is kind of one of those things to keep in mind. If you want the longer lasting phone, the XR is probably not going to be one of those phones at the end of the day. With the 14 Plus though, it's just getting started. This device just came out, but it is a little bit of a different device because we do have the Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of this, which is a year-old chipset as of this point. So because of that, we're in this kind of limbo stage where it might make a little bit more sense. Purchase something like the 14 Pro Max if you want a little bit of a longer lasting phone. But regardless, when it comes down to these two, the 14 Plus is definitely going to be outlasting the XR pretty much every single way you look at it. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now let's go do a speed comparison between both these phones. The 14 Plus has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 GB of RAM, where the XR has that Apple A12 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 GB of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are cleared out in the background, so let us get into it. 14 Plus is here, 10 is here. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. About the same thing. Music 3, 2, 1. And 14 Plus was faster there. 10 are a little bit behind. Getting out of here. So settings 3, 2, 1. The 14 Plus was faster. Health 3, 2, 1. 14 Plus again is a faster one. Clock 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go and hop out of here. Podcast 3, 2, 1. 14 Plus faster. App Store 3, 2, 1. And the 14 Plus was faster there. Scrolling through. I don't know if there's going to be that big of a difference here when we're just scrolling through these pages, but as I mentioned before, you are getting an overall smoother phone and a faster phone on the 14 Plus, so that's probably something to keep in mind. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into camera, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go and take a photo. So this one does have, night mode. We'll go and turn this one off. Let's go and take a photo. And it was actually faster on the iPhone XR there, which is very weird. Hopping out of this one, photos, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's go hop out of here. Let's do mail, 3, 2, 1. 14 Plus faster. Notes 3, 2, 1. Oh, messed that one up completely. And let's go up out of here. We do have some third-party applications we can go and open up. Let's try Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now, I've done gaming on a lot of these devices, and in my opinion, both phones do great. The 14 Plus is definitely going to be better, though, in terms of app opening, in terms of loading, in terms of gameplay, in terms of graphics. The 14 Plus, with its higher resolution display and with a better display, is probably going to give you an overall better experience. That's kind of like the best way to put it. Hopping out of this one, as you guys can tell, the 14 Plus was definitely faster there. We can try loading up Genshin Impact 3, 2, 1. This is another really, really big game. So if you're somebody who wants to play like the biggest, most complex games ever, then maybe something like the 14 Plus is probably going to give you a better experience, as I mentioned before. But still, the 10R I think does an overall decent job for how old this phone is, in my opinion. You can see again, 10R was slightly slower there. Hopping out of this one, let's go and see if we have some other application. We can try something like Snapchat 3, 2, 1. Again, 14 Plus is going to be faster. We can try something like Files 3, 2, 1. 14 Plus again is a faster one. Stocks 3, 2, 1. And the 14 Plus is again is a faster one. Hopping out of here, Translate 3, 2, 1. And overall, I mean, you guys kind of get the idea. The 14 Plus is definitely the faster phone pretty much every single way. It's also going to be better in RAM management. You're getting pretty much twice the amount of RAM on the 14 Plus than on the iPhone XR. So when it comes down to both these, the 14 Plus is definitely the far faster phone. Now, in terms of the camera setup, this is another very interesting thing between both. Like I mentioned before, the iPhone XR had a single camera setup. The iPhone 14 Plus has a dual camera setup. Both can do 4K at 60 on the back, but the XR can only do 1080p at 60 on the front, but the iPhone 14 Plus can do 4K at 60 on the front. Now, with the iPhone XR, when this phone first came out back in 2018, the camera was actually kind of controversial because it was a single camera, but I will say it's aged decently. For a 2018 phone, I think it's okay. It's definitely not going to outlast any other phone camera. I think that, I think the 10s definitely was a better camera than this thing. We take a look at video mode. I mean, we have photo mode, portrait mode. There's just not a lot of features built into this phone compared to the iPhone 14 Plus. So I will say this is still not a bad camera by any means, but something like the 14 Plus, you're definitely going to be getting the overall better camera when it comes down to it. So for one, you're getting an extra ultra-wide sensor, which is really nice. So you can do that 0.5x zoom. You still have 5x zoom on both, but you have that 0.5x zoom, which is really, really cool. You have portrait mode just like there. It's probably better on this one though. You have video mode, 4K at 60 on the front and the back, where the iPhone X only had 4K at 60 on the back, 1080p at 60 on the front. You have this new action mode, which is like a stabilized type of video, which that in and of itself is really cool. But also, you're getting this new cinematic mode, which is about a year old as of this point, and it's pretty much like portrait mode for video. So you have that type of capability on this phone as well, which that in and of itself, like I mentioned before, is really, really cool. So the kind of, some of the camera comparison, definitely the 14 Plus is better. But as some of the overall comparison, what I'll tell you is the 14 Plus is definitely the better phone in pretty much every single way. You're going to be getting better build quality. Actually, I wouldn't even say that. You're going to be getting better cameras. You're going to be getting better performance, longer lasting phone, better battery life. Pretty much everything is going to be better on the iPhone 14 Plus. The 10R, I would say though, is a decent value. For how cheap this phone is now, you can probably buy it for like $250. This is a pretty cheap phone. I mean, it costs like less than 40% of what this phone is. So this is a very, very good priced phone. It keeps up fairly well with the 14 Plus. The only thing that concerns me is how much longer this phone's going to last. I don't know if it's going to last maybe like another 2-3 years. Hopefully it lasts forever. I don't know. But other than that, I think this phone's performance is still decent. The build quality is still decent. The battery life is still decent. It just so happens the 14 Plus is definitely a better phone for sure. So in terms of that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.